Hello, podcast fans. Adam Carolla here. I'm leading the fight against patent trolls who are threatening this medium. It's not about me. It's about the podcast you're listening to right now. If I go down, this show could be next. So visit fundanything.com/patent troll for more information on how you can keep podcasting alive. Thank you and mahalo.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
PodcastOne.com presents the Ask Women Podcast. A place where two comics and a professional wing girl get together to dissect the female mind.
You don't know how I feel.
And explain it to men in terms they can actually understand. Boobs. Now, here's the lovely ladies of Ask Women.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ask Women podcast where you get real advice straight from the source. I'm Kristen Carney, one of your co-hosts, comedian, etc. Check me out on youtube.com/See You Next Tuesday Comedy. And of course, we're here with Marni Kinrys, the best-selling author of Get Inside Her and of course the relationship expert. And we're luckily blessed to have Sex with Emily back with us today.
I'm so glad to be here with you guys.
Emily
Dr.
Morse.
Emily. Dr. Emily Morse. That's true. That I got to get used to that. It's been a few years, but I host the Sex with Emily podcast, which you can also find on Podcast One and iTunes, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook. Sex with Emily.
Do you demand that people call you doctor now?
I don't, but some people do. Like, hey doc. I'm like, I'm not used to it yet.
I would make
you start demanding.
I make people call me doctor, and I'm not even a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Kristen all the time.
Doctor, yeah.
In the bedroom.
Hey doc. That could be some role playing.
Yeah, I bet.
I'd rather be the nurse.
We should have asked Susan that.
I know where you're going.
Yeah,
I know where you're going with it.
We should have asked Susan Pinsky that if she calls him Dr. Drew in the bedroom.
I wonder. Oh my God,
that is so
we had
funny.
Susan Pinsky, who loves you, by the way.
I love her.
But she was very open and revealing with us. They have sex every day. Did you know that?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
she talked about
She's
her
open
sex
and
life.
revealing, or the biggest liar ever.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that second part.
She talked about their entire sex life for an hour on my podcast.
Really?
And it was so funny because she and Drew are so different people. Drew Pinsky, he hosts a lot of things, but Loveline and CNN, his HLN show, and everyone knows that, right? But his wife, they're so different. I mean, they've been together 30 years. It's amazing. They have triplets. I mean, they have this great marriage. I mean, you know, of course, every marriage has issues, but they have sex every day. And it's funny because I recorded in the Loveline studio.
And they're not in their youngest years either.
No, they're like in their 50s. And she talks about, you know, just his penis and how often they have sex and what he's into. And it was like, but the best part is, so we were recording my show in the Loveline studio before I do Loveline. So Drew walks in.
I think he's like,
Susan,
what are you talking
and she's
about?
like, and then I got really wet. And I look over because Drew's like a man of science, you know, doesn't talk about his stuff. And she's just like open.
Yeah.
She's great.
I love it. I like that
It's
balance.
a good yin-yang.
It is a good yin-yang. Yeah. Opposite
I would say that I
attract.
have a similar balance with my husband, but in the very beginning of our relationship, I swear to God, I had bruises all over my ankles because he would be kicking me under the table because of the things that I would be saying. Because it would make him so uncomfortable, all the things that I was very comfortable putting out there. And he'd just be like, what is wrong with you? But I love you because you're so crazy and you can say this stuff. And then he's obviously, you know, now he just says, oh, that's Marni. She's going to do that stuff. Which I feel is the same as Drew and Susan,
Exactly.
which is very nice.
They're adorable. I mean, I love them. They're great. They're a great couple, and they're just really solid. They communicate. He's good. Everyone's like, is he really that nice? I'm like, he's awesome.
Like, yes,
he's
he is
so
really
smart.
that nice.
And she's amazing, and she's fun. They just took me to a fundraiser last week in Pasadena.
Was this like a ball?
Yeah, she was talking about that on
She
our show.
hosts this ball, and she's like, I want you to come, I want you to come, I want you to sit at the table. Turns out, like, they wanted me to come and hang out with their friends and meet everyone, but she kept trying to fix me up with all these doctors around. And she's like, that's Drew's friend. And I'm like, oh my God. They're like this. This not my guys.
Would you ever want to date another doctor?
I mean, I don't know. I'm an equal opportunity dater, really. I don't mind dating a doctor. I don't think a sex doctor might be odd, but a doctor. Sure.
So do you date guys of
yes,
I was going to say of every race, but like, but what is it? Like a wide spectrum of men. So there's not so many. Oh, they have to be rich. They have to be this.
Nothing.
It's just all over.
Nothing. It'd be easier if it were that way. I want to be like, you know, I want them to be, it sounds so cliche, but like interest. I want to learn something from them. I want them to challenge me intellectually. I want to be attracted to them, have chemistry. I mean, this is the good news for men. I know guys decide in 2 seconds or less whether or not they're going to sleep with someone, but I think for a lot of women, you can meet someone, you're like, oh, he's cute. And on the second, third date, you're like, I can't wait till he rips my clothes off. Because, again, that's what I was talking about. The brain is the largest sex organ in a way that women get turned on by their brain. Men can say certain things or do, they kind of grow on you.
My joke on that wasn't for me. It was actually just saying some women are really dumb.
Right.
That's what I was trying to say. And I was like, whatever, I'll go with it.
Right. No, but totally, that's what I mean is that men, we can more intellectualize things. Like, he might not be the hottest guy initially, but then he becomes that way, where I think guys aren't like, I'm not attracted to her, but maybe she's got a great personality.
Yeah,
like,
right.
raise your hand if any guys that, right, none. There's no one.
Yeah, exactly. What was the story that you wanted to share, Kristen?
Well, I know this episode actually might not come out until a little bit later, but I was just going to say, I was walking by the Independent Spirit Awards this weekend, which is in Santa Monica. I had no idea it was happening. But
That's how we always find it, too. It's always by mistake whenever we walk by. We're like, oh, there's a celebrity.
And it's funny because I never walk ever. Just that day I wanted to go on a walk. So anyway, my boyfriend and I walked down to the ocean and, started noticing all these limos. And, of course, I wanted to stay and see if I saw anybody, Matthew McConaughey. And so I was waiting, and my boyfriend's like, oh, this stuff is so dumb. Like, I'm leaving. And I was totally fine with it because we were there for a while, and he wanted to watch a basketball game. So I was like, you go. I'm going to stay and wait and see if I see anyone exciting. And so I was standing there, and this old man, I would say, I would be giving him the benefit of the doubt to say he was the youngest 75. He was an old man. And I love old men. I think they're adorable and cute. So he came up and stood next to me, and I was like, oh, yay, a little puppy. And so I just was going to, be nice to him.
Right.
Not yet. But so basically what happened was, he started asking me questions like, what is this? What celebrities are supposed to be here? And so I was just explaining it to him, and I was talking very loudly, just kidding. And so he said to me, all of a sudden it got very strange. And it almost seemed like he was faking. He said, you know what? I forgot my phone today, and I had my phone in my hand. And he said, I'm supposed to make a phone call. Could I use your phone? And I didn't want to let him use my phone. I was just kind of creeped out by that. Yeah. But I didn't know how to say no. And so I said, okay. And I could tell he obviously didn't know how to use the iPhone.
Yeah.
And so I dialed it for him, and it went straight to voicemail, and he left a voicemail, and it sounded fake. He was like, hi, call me back. And then he just hung up.
Okay.
And then he said, I would really like to take you out to dinner.
That was his move.
And I was like, so.
That's an old school move right there.
God.
Yeah. And first I dropped to my knees. No, I'm just kidding. So I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not available. But it freaked me out because I let him use my phone, and I thought, was he doing that to get my phone number? I called maybe his phone. It was an 818 number for, the Valley.
Oh. If it was.
And I would definitely not date anyone in the Valley.
Yeah.
Right. But it creeped me out kind of. But then I realized it just went straight to voicemail, so it probably wasn't ringing,
it was
so
probably
it
his
didn't
excuse
track
to pause, delay, so he could think about how to ask you out.
Yeah. And I could not believe it. First of all, I thought, do I look that old? Am I really getting that old? But then I thought, well, maybe he just has balls, and he was just really going for it.
I was thinking, is he really that confident? I love it. Because I get guys writing into me all the time saying, I'm 55, and there's this girl that I like that's 35. Is it okay if I go for her? I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah,
go for whatever girl that you want to. Have the confidence to ask for what you want when you want
it.
75 after, with 30, how old are you? 30. Maybe roughly 30. But yeah, go for whatever you want to. I love this man. I dropped your knees. That would have been a good thing.
Exactly.
Well, I was like, if you were on the other side of the fence and you were with these celebrities, maybe I would think about it. Right. Yeah, but, I, of course,
good for him. That's the thing.
Love
guys
that.
just
I think it's a good story.
They're always trying to double, if they always second guess themselves when they find someone attractive, or they just do it. What do you got to lose, right? Just ask them out. Don't overthink it.
I always say,
he was like, I only got 2 days left. I want you to be part of it.
I want to be a part of it.
Exactly.
I always say, don't reject yourself. Let her do that for you, because you're just messing up your opportunities.
So true.
You're missing out on countless opportunities.
Great saying.
So what about you, Emily? Because you're the single one in the room.
I am.
How do you like to be approached? Because you are a very busy woman. You're a very successful woman. So I'm sure lots of guys approach you continuously. What is the approach that you like best, or that you respond to the most?
Honestly, you mean if I'm just out and about and a guy approaches me, I would
both.
say,
let's say you're at an event, or let's say if
he interests me, if we're having an interesting conversation,
but even before that interesting conversation, what would be the way for him to come up to you and start talking?
I would say just, so who do you know here tonight? Or what brought you? Even it can just be like, yeah. I mean, usually it's like observation, or like, you enjoying the show tonight? You enjoy this wherever we're at? What kind of beer you're drinking? No, don't ask me to get me a drink. Because then women, when you ask them to buy them a drink, they feel locked in.
They do.
I don't know who you are yet, and you're going to buy me a drink, and then I feel guilty.
Right, now I owe you
5 minutes. Exactly.
Yeah, don't do that.
Really drunk because you're chugging it.
If he's just charming,
like now you owe them something.
Exactly. I'm like, I do not need anyone to buy me drinks, unless he's cute, and I'm like, check it out. I'm like, okay, you can buy me a drink. Right. But but usually that's not a great way to start. I would say if a guy just comes up to me and he's confident, again, we can't talk about that enough, but it's so hard to explain because guys are like, I think I'm confident. If you're not sure you're confident, you're probably not, so you got to work on that.
And if you think you're really confident, you're an asshole.
Right, exactly. That's another good point.
You're like, obviously,
I think it
Art
has
just
to
waved,
be
of course.
Life's work for men and for women is to cultivate your confidence. If you don't have it, you have insecurities, which we all do. They're never going to go away, but if you have the ones that are plaguing you from dating, whatever you can, if it's therapy, talk to your friends, whatever you got to do, listen to the show, listen to my show, try to do things that give you more confidence. That's going to be attractive. So a guy who just walks up and he wasn't like staring at me and ogling all night or whatever, and he wasn't like, hey, so you look hot, or, I mean, but he could say, I like your dress. That's a cool dress. I mean, or something. Like, I don't think that's lecherous. I mean, really, it's about the person and their energy.
It really is about the energy.
But it's like how they approach you and just
like, well, I'm not into dead guys.
Don't give me like a pickup line, like, don't do that.
Unless you're going to make fun of yourself afterwards for using that pickup
exactly
line. One thing that I always say about confidence, because I think a lot of guys think that if they, when we're looking for confidence, it means continuous 24/7 confidence. Confidence actually means that you just have the ability to bounce back really quickly,
right?
Because you have a tool belt full of tools that help you not go into that negative hole
and
where you're
that
down
negative
yourself.
hole doesn't start with just one little error happening.
Right. You keep going.
Right.
Exactly. Keep going.
So yeah, confident people like Obama, Dr. Drew, all of us here, like we have our down moments as well. We just don't sit in those down moments.
I was crying before. No,
I'm sure you were.
No, right. I mean, yesterday probably.
Well, following the introduction, there's always like the texting thing that people ask about, and later on we're going to have Michael Fiore.
Oh, that's a good one.
On the phone with us, telling us how to text your ex.
He's really good at that. Yeah. So he actually he has a couple of products. One's for men and one's for women, but it's about how to text your ex back. And he was on the Rachel Ray show, and I watched his like little 5-minute thing on the Rachel Ray show, and he gave a couple of examples to people, and people who were in the audience had tried what he had said prior to the show being aired, and they actually got their exes back.
Wow.
From the text that they had written. So he actually knows what he's talking about. But it's also for people to learn how to reignite that spark with the women or the men in their lives currently.
Well,
so it's not about like getting back an ex from like 8 years ago.
It can just be keeping her interest, whether you've been dating her for a week or a month, because let's not deny it, it's all happening through text messages these days. Like younger, like my nieces or whatever, like 14, 15, they never talk to a guy on the phone in their life. Like they probably never will. It's all about knowing how to craft the text and what to say and
really
how to keep it going. And that's why I always say people like foreplay all day. And that's kind of what texting is. And you have to know what to say.
I totally
you don't have to be a great writer. Spelling is important, at least for some people. Like if you can't spell, that kind of annoys me. But be fun, and you can learn the stuff. So I guess Fiore will teach us
he's definitely going to teach us. It's so funny that you talk about like how people don't use a phone anymore, because literally when people call me, I have this one friend who calls and I just stare at the phone and I'm like, what do I do with this?
Right.
It's like, I don't want to be locked into a half an hour conversation. It's a horrible thing. I'll text her back. I'll be like, I know you think I'm an idiot, because that means I'm here. I could have answered, but I'm texting you back.
I'm so bad with the phone that I'm relieved when I look down and I see it's a creditor calling and not a friend. I'm like, yes, I can ignore this and no one will care. Right.
Exactly.
I know, it's horrible.
So but you got to learn. It is an art, because the guys who are like boring texters, like yawn, like I'm not interested, because if you don't see someone for a while or you go on one date, you want to keep that spark going from the date. So you got to know what to say.
Well, this is a common theme, because you were talking about this on the other episode from last week about being engaging. Because when you were talking about Tinder, you're like, some guys write to you and say, hey, beautiful, or like just like blanket statements that mean nothing, that don't engage you in any way, and you like literally write them off as boring.
Right, I did. This one guy said, hi, I like your photos. That's just like saying, hey, nice rack. If we're
exactly.
I'm like, I'm not interested in you. But then the guy who said on Tinder, the first thing he said to me was, so how many words is it going to take? ? Like, I thought that was playful and fun, and I messaged back.
And creative, slightly, but not trying too hard.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe he used that with 15 women, but it totally worked on me.
But it's the same thing with approaching in person, because like this is how it feels to us. It's as if you walk up to a girl, whether it's through text or through approaching, and you say, I like dogs, and then stare her in the face and say nothing more. That's what your statement is doing to us. So imagine if somebody were to come at you and just make some blanket statement in front of you, and then there's no automatic response that comes out of you. So
like the automatic response is alrighty then.
Yeah, exactly. Like get the fuck away from me. You are creepy as hell. I don't want to be talking to you right now.
Right. You want to be smiling and confident and just like observe something happening in that moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I like that you said observe, because I haven't talked about it in a while, but I have this method for creating attractive conversation with women that I talk about in my product, How to Become a Man Women Want. But it's called OSA. It's observe, share, and ask a question.
It's so good.
And it's for people who don't know how to do it naturally, it's something you can practice and get into. And I'll just give like a little exercise for right now.
Good one.
So it's for the observation part, how to start
pretend we're like standing in line at the coffee shop.
Oh,
how would you do
role
Marni?
playing?
Yeah, let's role play.
I would observe and say, God, it stinks in here, or like it smells amazing in here right now. Like that muffin looks absolutely amazing, or something.
And not your muffin
and then I might
some
say,
sort of observation.
Right. Are you saying I'm fat? No, I'd say.
I would say, well, you could do.
Yeah, it's good. I've never tried this one. Usually, I get the cinnamon swirl.
But at least it invokes some sort of conversation back, rather than just making a blanket statement out loud. But so for observations, for the people who are listening, and this is for men and for women, because it really is an engaging way of having conversation. What observations do is they cut out all the bullshit formalities. No, hi, my name is Marni, and I saw you from across. None of that bullshit that's there that all of us hate
from
saying
around here?
and doing. Exactly, from around here, blah. Horrible. It's as if you start talking to somebody as if you're already in conversation with them, you know them, and you're not asking for permission to jump into their world. You're saying, do you want to jump into mine? Because I'm freaking interesting. But a good way to practice making observations is literally whenever you're walking down the street or walking wherever you are, just start observing the things around you and then adding on to the observation. So if you see a lamppost, okay, go back into your memory log and in your mind, or you can say it out loud if you want to and look like a crazy person, but you can start saying the things that you know about lampposts and what that lamppost has reminded you of. Oh, I used to make out with this girl like when I was 14 years old, standing up against a lamp, whatever it was. But start creating associations with the objects that you see so that you can get into the practice of observing.
And that you have an opinion on them as well.
Right.
Exactly. So
Opinions
hopefully that
are
makes
sexy.
sense.
It is. Like, I mean, I think that's attractive too. Someone who's showing a mind, they thought about something and they see something that's just interesting.
Yeah.
In the moment, and the way they say it.
It's funny because we had David Wygant on a couple of weeks ago. And he's actually the person that I came up with this method from by watching him and the way that he interacts. Cause he just jumps he just jumps into conversation with people and he will make an observation. And I realized after watching him do
for example, when he came into our show, I walked in with food. He's like, "What'd you bring me to eat?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Chicken liver." And he goes, "Oh, I love chicken liver." And I said,
but I see how you remember everything that he said.
Right. Yeah. And I was like, well, actually, it's quinoa. But, I was really disappointed when they told me they were out of chicken liver. That was literally our first
But see, that's a great, if you happened to be attracted to him, that might have been interesting.
Right.
Or maybe you are, I don't know.
No.
Right. Like,
no,
your boyfriend. But I'm saying that's interesting, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what'd you bring me? Like, that's such a, like, and it's also like what you might say to your friends. That's what I always tell guys too. Like, think of how you are with your buddies. Like, what you would say to them if they walked in.
But I think though, for guys, and I'm going to really say how amazing I am here, but not everyone could come back like I did. Like, it's chicken liver. Sometimes they'd be like, oh, I got spaghetti or whatever, and then the guy can't really banter with certain
so
women.
I'm going to ask you. So before we get into full estrogen mode here, I want to ask you, because you're a comedian, right? So you've taken improv. Yes, sometimes you're freaking funny. But what is the way for guys to learn how to be witty? If it's not natural, it's a hard thing to learn.
Yeah.
For me, I went to improv classes, so I learned about how to draw associations and how to actually spit things out of my mouth that I wanted to say, but I was holding back on in a comfortable space.
I think a good way to do it, because I know for me, I think the way I developed a sense of humor was, number one, I hated myself, but number two was that my dad always had associations for things. That, so if you said the word, oh God, it's going to be so, something he would always say would be, we're going to go to the Grand Canyon, but it's closed. So it's like, obviously, something like that can't be closed. So it was like he always was making these connections to things that like could work together but didn't work together. And so my brain, whenever he says something, I know exactly what he's going to say next because I know his rhythm, that he's piecing things together. It's almost like a puzzle of items and things that exist in the world, and somehow he makes them fit together. So if you hang around people that are funny, or if you watch comedy a lot, you'll start to see that there's almost a formula. And you're smart enough to be able to, if you can do math, you can figure out, oh, this equals this, and then that equals funny. So you can really, you can't be naturally funny, but you can see how it works, and so you can pick up how it might happen.
So this is the last topic that I want to talk about before
that was total
we go
bullshit, by the way.
To our Michael Fiore is calling in today.
Awesome.
But it's interesting because this is actually where I wanted to go to with Emily. But it's about having knowledge as power, because it's funny that you just said that for comedy, and I would probably say the same thing for sex. So there's people who write in and say, I'm a virgin, I don't know what to do, blah, blah. And then people who are like, I am not funny, what do I do? I think it's great that you can actually educate yourself to build confidence. You don't actually, in the very beginning, need to do those things in order to build the confidence about that skill set. So for sex, if you haven't had sex, you can go out and educate yourself about sex so that you are very familiar. So you can go and listen to, Emily's podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can listen to exactly from our episode from last week about how to stimulate the clitoris, what to do, how to pleasure her.
Right.
Most guys don't know those things, so you will already be better than them.
Exactly.
And same thing with being funny in comedy. I think it's interesting that you just said, go out and watch comedians, watch their timing, observe, and even just being in that space, you'll start to find yourself incorporating more humor into your conversation. But if you isolate yourself and just like fixate on this lack of information and knowledge, then that's where you're going to stay forever.
Exactly. And there's that fear, like, I don't know, what am I going to do? I don't know. And I think that we get into such anxiety mode, that we procrastinate or we're scared about it. And then really what you should do is take all that energy that you're worried about being a virgin or worried about not being funny and start educating yourself. So yeah, start listening, reading books, talking to your friends. It's okay if you're a virgin, you're not supposed to know how to have sex. Guess what? You haven't had sex yet.
Right.
But learn what you can. Talk to your girlfriends. Talk to everyone. And then you'll feel better. But we spend so much mental energy in life, no matter what it is, worrying. And worrying is
what we
so
don't
unprotective. Anxiety and what we don't have. Like anxiety, all that stuff is such a waste of time.
And if you think you're not good at it from the start, add worrying to it, you're definitely not good at it.
You're
totally
not,
fucking
if you think
yourself.
You're not good, you're not.
Yeah.
What you think you are. So think that you will be, or you are already.
It means so much to us that you download our podcast every week. It's awesome. It gets us out of bed in the morning. And we just want to ask you to do us just the little teeny, weensy little favor. Just check out our sponsors. Literally, without them, there is no show. And then that means there's no us. It's like a little domino effect. So if they leave us, we have to leave you, and we don't want to do that.
No, because we love doing this show.
Here. Right. They put us here. I mean, we're in these seats because they allowed us to be in these seats. So please, please, please just check them out. Support them in any way that you can. We will love you for life.
And you can figure out who the sponsor is by whoever has a small advertisement on our show every single week. So every single week, if you can do us that favor of going to whoever we speak about, go to their website, check them out, enter a coupon code, whatever you want to do, but go check them out and show them that you support us by supporting them. But coming up next, we have Michael Fiore on the phone with us because he's in San Francisco and he couldn't come down for this. But he's going to be talking to us about how to text your ex back, which I think is fascinating. So hopefully he'll give us a few texts that you can use to get your ex back. And we'll be back in a minute. Hey guys, it's Marni from the Ask Women podcast. Buying a car is a not so fun experience for most people, and it doesn't have to be. At TrueCar.com, they'll help you get rid of the fear that you may overpay. You know you'll get a fair price because they show you what others paid for the car you're looking for. TrueCar.com analyzes what people are paying for their cars in their market and shares it with consumers so that they never have to overpay. Over 40,000 cars were sold by TrueCar certified dealers just last month. Users see an average savings of $3,046 off MSRP. TrueCar certified dealers go through a certification process, and you work directly with a TrueCar representative that will honor your savings. TrueCar certified dealers believe that truth and transparency are essentials to a better buying experience. First, go to TrueCar.com and find out what others pay for the same vehicle in your market and around the country. Second, register at TrueCar.com to see upfront pricing information and lock in your savings certificate. And the third step is simple. Just print out your certificate and take it to the TrueCar certified dealer for a better hassle-free buying experience. TrueCar has the most comprehensive new car pricing information available and a certified network of dealers that offers a hassle-free car buying experience and negotiation-free guaranteed savings. Support the Ask Women podcast and shop at TrueCar.com.
Thanks for listening to another great show from PodcastOne.com. We've got over 200 of the most listened to podcasts in the world. And with the NBA playoffs rapidly approaching, be sure to catch Short Corner with comedy writer Justin Halpern and ex-NBA journeyman Paul Shirley.
Steve Nash. Yes. How you doing?
Catch the launch of Pussycat Dolls founder Robin Anton's new podcast, Kim Kardashian Checks In.
Yeah. Hi.
And if you're really feeling crazy, Podcast One has the Honey Badger coming soon.
Hey, stupid, what's going on?
It's all happening now at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com. You're listening to the Ask Women podcast, a Podcast One presentation.
Whatever.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We have, of course, a lovely guest on the phone. We have Michael Fiore, who's going to tell us all about how you text your ex back. But before we get to him, I want you guys to buy stuff on Amazon because we need your support. Mm-hmm. So make sure if you have...
Because we need to stay on the air. That's what it is. It's not even your support. We need to stay on.
Well, when we had Jordan Harbinger here, he moved to San Francisco, and he said he bought literally $13,000 worth of stuff on Amazon for his move, and he forgot to do it through our link.
I know.
So please make up for his lack of
so if you're moving, buy shit through our link, wingirlmethod.com/Amazon. And yes, we have Michael Fiore on the phone with us. Hello, Michael.
I could buy my house through Amazon.
Seriously, we wish you could buy your house through Amazon.
I just bought a house like 4 months ago.
I know.
Preferably a $4 million one.
Yes.
I know.
But it wasn't through Amazon, so we don't care.
Right, that's true.
Exactly. We don't get commission on that. Actually, I just bought a house too.
Yeah, wonderful.
I know. We're all homeowners now. It's so exciting. So exciting.
The American dream.
I live in a one-bedroom.
Wait, so Michael, so tell us about you.
Hi.
Like I know about you. Emily knows about you. I don't think Kristen does.
I have no idea.
Yeah, she's like, I don't know who the
Emily
fuck you
Emily
are.
and I go back years and years and years.
Years and
actually.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first started podcasting, I met him.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, so I'm Michael Fiore. I'm like the secret relationship guru, I guess, or something like that.
Not so secret.
Not
Lots of
so
people know
secret.
about you, so I wouldn't say it's so secretive.
But you don't realize that when you're just living your life every day. So, I run a company called Digital Romance Inc., which you can check out at digitalromanceinc.com. And we do all sorts of fun stuff, teaching people how to have better relationships. I always say we teach women how to find love and men how to get laid. But we really teach guys how to find love, too, because a lot of guys actually do have these emotion things and actually...
They love getting laid.
Send them my number.
Well, women want to get laid as well, but and the general idea is somehow people. It's always funny to me when guys write into our emails and things like that, and somehow think women don't like sex, which is always the strangest thing to me because I'm like, well, we wouldn't have any kids in the world if women didn't like sex too.
Well, there's also forcible sex, but I mean, that's a whole other topic.
We're not going to go there. I'll share some of the creepiest emails we ever get later if you want.
Oh yes, please.
That would make Kristen's day. She's so happy.
We do that, and we have a lot of programs that teach people how to use text messages, how to get what they really want in life. I had a program called Text the Romance Back that I was on the Rachel Ray show for like 4 years ago now, I guess, or something like that.
I was talking about that in the beginning half of the show.
It's a crazy program, and it works really, really well. And from the great Odin-like head of Text the Romance Back, we ended up with Text Your Ex Back and Capture His Heart and Make Him Love You Forever, and a new program called Get the Girl Code, which is pretty cool, and other stuff like that. We also have a podcast called the Digital Romance Radio Podcast that I do with
So
my
you're
husband.
like Emily. You got a lot of shit. You have a lot of stuff out there.
Going on, yeah.
I know.
Stuff going on all the time. We're building an empire one day at a time and helping people have better relationships. I will say on our podcast, Nora, who co-hosts that show with me, we always joke that we could really just play a recording over and over again called Why Don't We Use Adult Words and Actually Talk to Each Other? And you probably solve a lot of the problems that you're having in your relationship, but that's okay. But let me share with you really quickly the really creepy email that Maggie, who does all our customer support, got from a customer the other day. And she wrote in and said, Michael, I desperately need your help. I am in love and want to have a sexual relationship with my 48-year-old stepdaughter. Can you help me do this? If you help me do this, I will pay you a lot of money.
Oh my God!
I get those all the time.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Actually, the creepiest one we've ever gotten. I think it's pretty.
And it was a mother to a daughter, stepmother to his.
I think it's a guy in his 70s. I think.
Maybe it was your guy.
It was my guy. I was just saying I got hit on by like a 75-year-old.
That's who he was calling.
Yeah. Yes. I have the number
We get
saved.
those. We also get my favorite that I got years and years ago is from a woman who obviously did not speak English as her first language, said, Michael, I am in love with a man, but this man keeps sleeping with my sister and getting her pregnant. What do I do?
Keeps getting her pregnant.
His name is her husband.
He's getting her pregnant? Like, I don't quite understand.
That is hilarious. That is so many people are listening and they're like, fuck, you can't answer these questions. I'm not listening to the show anymore. Right. So I want to know, because your specialty that you started off with is how to text the romance back. And then later on it gets into text the ex back. But I would love to talk about that a little bit. Like maybe some
texting is awesome.
Yeah, so tell us about texting, because we were talking about communication in the very beginning half of the show, and there was 3 women talking, so we want to hear the male perspective as well. But talk about like texting and how it's the new form of communication and how challenging it can be for many people.
It's super challenging. We get emails from people all the time who are just absolutely dumbfounded by the entire thing. Actually, the first program we ever had for texting was one called Text Your Wife Into Bed.
Oh.
Weirdly enough. And it was all around, originally that was kind of built for married guys who were like, hey, I'm not getting laid anymore, because there's that whole idea that somehow when you get married, you don't have sex anymore. I'm married, I still have sex, but sometimes people don't.
How long have you been married?
A year.
Well, I haven't been married long enough for
Let's
the
talk in a year. Exactly.
But anyway, so we created a program called Text Your Wife Into Bed, and a lot of guys ended up buying that. It would write me these breathless testimonials afterwards saying, hey, I used that curiosity magnet text that you sent me and used some sensual language, and all of a sudden we're actually having sex again. And then Text the Romance Back was kind of our way of PGing that up, because unlike this podcast where I can say things like, fuck, you can't do that kind of thing all the time on TV. So we did Text the Romance Back, and billions of women bought that program and used it to try to get that spark back, But texting, I love it because people are really busy these days. It's kind of hard to spend a lot of time together in your relationship. If you're like me, I'm running a business, I'm doing other things, my wife has a job, all these other kind of stuff going on. And what I like about texting is it's a way to kind of create a telepathic communication between you and that special person, whether you're dating them or married to them or whatever else, during the day, so you can feel like you're spending time together even if you're really, really far away from each other.
So what are some of the techniques you're using what are you actually saying in these texts?
Well, I'd say the first thing I'll tell you what not to do first. And this is the
good. I love the not to do.
Guys make all the time. And guys particularly they'll meet a girl or they'll have their wife or whatever else, and they'll send a text, which is what I call a nothing text.
Oh, we're talking about that before.
I've got a phone full of them, Yeah,
and a nothing text is pretty much any text that could have been sent by a 19-year-old frat boy, whether you are a 19-year-old frat boy or not. And for some reason, guys in particular, they'll meet a girl, they'll be dating, and they'll send the text like, hey, or what's up?
Right, exactly, and nothing else. Right, that's exactly what we're talking about.
And nothing else at all. By the way, for guys who are listening, women hate it when you put the responsibility for the conversation on them.
We were just saying that.
Absolutely hate it.
Yeah, we
right?
were just saying
so
that.
As a guy, you actually have to have something interesting to say. It's almost like, every woman is like, why won't guys just pick the fucking restaurant?
Right.
As opposed to saying, hey, where do you want to go? Doesn't matter where you want to go, just pick a place and fucking go there, and you'll be better off. But through Text the Romance Back, what that program is, we start off with kind of there's a bunch of accelerating text as time goes on. The first is what I call a curiosity magnet text, and the idea is to use curiosity to actually get somebody's attention. And usually the way you do that is by using an incomplete thought, right? So you would send something along the lines...
I wrote to them.
Yeah, exactly. So you would say something along the lines of, can't stop thinking about ... right? Or something like that, without actually filling it in a little bit, because that way it's not complete. It's not something she can kind of just blow off, but actually causes you to get a little bit more involved. From there we have, there's a whole section on things I call bait questions. And bait questions sound incredibly cheesy until you actually start using them. The one I always kind of use as an example is something like, if I were a genie and could grant you 3 wishes, what would they be? Right? But anything that kind of breaks the regular monotony of the day.
Just do something
you don't
different.
send them things about, by the way, if you send that genie question, and if they write back and say, I would wish for more wishes, you are allowed to make fun of them viciously for not playing the game right. You're not supposed to break it. Right? And then we have other things. That actually program goes deeply into sensuality.
Good.
Right? Because the number one thing, especially the guys have to understand, I always explain to guys, I'm like, you do know that women love reading literotica kinds of stuff. They love reading romance novels. They love reading things like this. I always say, words for women are kind of like porn for men. There are women that like to watch visual porn
That's
too.
true.
Overall. And if you want to get good with the texting thing, it's basically you can write your own kind of special little custom romance novel for a woman that she gets while she's sitting at work, rubbing her thighs together, desperate to see you again that night. fun stuff.
So give me one of these. I'm dying.
know, seriously.
I'm rubbing my thighs together in anticipation.
Oh my God, Marni! Oh my God.
Well, that was Emily, but still, I was thinking the same thing.
You guys sound similar.
I
know we do.
People always say
People
that.
are like, wait a second, I know you.
Compact and hot at the same time. Maybe
Well,
I
I'll
kind
take
of get
it.
confused a little bit. One of the things, I can kind of go off on a riff here, which always gets a little bit funny. So you could send something like, you start off with a curiosity magnet, then you start building up like with what I call a favorite part text, right? So you would say something, say you had a date the night before, and you would say something along the lines of, my favorite part last night was when you pressed yourself against me. I could feel the craving in your body, your lips against mine. Can't wait to do it again. Right?
Yeah.
Something as simple like that, but you're just building in a little sensuality. And then if you really want to have fun, one thing, guys, like people always think that texts have to be short, but they really don't. You got an iPhone, it's got an actual keyboard on it. You can send some pretty long text to somebody. And the main thing to understand is that most people are living their lives in incredibly bored desperation.
Zombie-like existence? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly, because every day you're getting up, and you're getting up at 6 a.m., and you're going to the gym, and you're in traffic, especially if you're in L.A. or something like that, forever, and then you fucking get to your desk, and you're sitting at your desk, and you're going through TPS reports or whatever else. And everybody wants to be distracted in some way, and everybody wants to feel some kind of spark. I actually had a girl I dated years ago before I met my wife. I was using some of the techniques that eventually became Text the Romance back on her over chat, actually, while she was at work. And I may or may not have gotten her
fired? I was going to say.
by accident, because she ended up going into the break room, which she thought was private, and masturbating.
Wow.
which I was kind of proud of.
Right, you're like...
Except there were other people in the break room.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, she's a beautiful girl. I'm glad I kind of do these kind of things. Turns out there was a camera, and it may have been an issue.
But you're that good. That's what I love.
That good. And the main thing to understand is to use like two power words that you want to use in texting.
Two what words?
Power
words. Okay.
Words are imagine and feel. Right. The imagination is the greatest erogenous zone. If you can talk, we're actually doing a program right now called Language of Desire, which is all around dirty talk. And the thing around it is if you can engage a person's imagination, whether they're a guy or a girl, the sex gets way more intense, the relationship gets way more intense, right?
Yeah.
So if you say something along the lines of, imagine if I were there right now. You see me come into your office. You feel this incredible chill going up and down your spine. I close the door behind me, a smile on my face. You feel the heat building up in your body as I slowly approach you. You feel my hands on your shoulders, all of the tension coming out of your body, like all of a sudden all of your muscles become loose spaghetti. My lips on your neck. You feel yourself push your hips back against.
You reading this?
Etc.
Jesus.
No, I'm just riffing. That's just what I do off the top of my head.
Yeah. So is this for guys? These are for guys who are in relationships already.
Or
either
starting
way,
one.
I used to use this stuff on girls I just met all the time, and believe me, I got laid a lot.
I'm sure. I mean, I think I always
shows
say
imagination. It shows
I always
you
say
doing something.
I always say when you're with someone, like it should be like foreplay all day, and you can accomplish that with texting because you want to, especially if it's new or you've been together for a while. You might even need it more, but you want to keep that spark going. You want to keep it interesting, and the imagination.
Anticipation in a way that's not.
They're looking forward to seeing you.
Milk today, right?
Right.
If
Exactly.
you're new in a relationship, you just meet a girl and you can, or a guy, right? And actually, by the way, women. I remember when we did Text Your Wife into Bed, this like 18-year-old British chick wrote me and told me that she started using this material on guys and had them wrapped around her little finger.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, because she was actually, getting sexual with these guys in a faster way. And not coming across as slutty, but showing confidence, showing power.
Sexuality.
Imagination and sexuality. And same thing with guys. Like, most guys left to their own devices will not be particularly clever when it comes to their sexuality, right? They'll just kind of like, I just want to put my dick in you. That's all there is to it. Or they think that they think that women are porn stars. Right? But if you want to get a woman to act like a porn star, you have to really build up to that, right? You have to inspire her to want to do that.
Make her feel sexy and wanted, and desired.
Make her feel sexy and wanted. Make her feel like the hottest bitch in the world. Make her feel like she's got. By the way, the biggest thing about Text the Romance back, the thing I tell guys to do is, you want to make a woman feel like you are a strong, confident, amazing, powerful man, and she can bring you to your needs. Right.
We want
it
to
only
feel
works
that
if you're a strong, confident, powerful man. Nobody wants to bring a wimp to his knees. That's you.
You were already there, buddy. Right?
Yeah.
We do that every day.
You're already there. But if you're confident and strong, and you can pick the restaurant, and you can have any girl you want, but you only want her. Right?
Yes.
That's the fantasy that
is the absolute fantasy. Absolutely. That they are the special ones that win you over and get you to want them because you have so many options and you can choose to be selective.
And that's the plot of every romance novel in the world, by the way, right?
Yeah.
It's the millionaire businessman. It's, even 50 Shades of Grey is the exact same thing, honestly, right? All that kind of, I think 50 Shades of Grey is shittily written, but whatever. Right. But all of this stuff is really just the female fantasy that so many women seem to have deep in their genes, as far as I can tell, is the idea of, yes, I'm a nice girl, whatever else, but I've got the magical sexual ability to bring this guy to his knees to make him worship me, essentially, at that point.
And that's why women have so many fantasies
he's still a
about.
man, and he's still going to pull my hair and fuck me hard and all that other kind of stuff, but I've still got some power there.
Yeah,
and as a guy, if you can give her that, it produces incredible results.
Totally. I mean, I think that women, their biggest, we talk about women's fantasies are to be taken, to be, because we want to feel like he is choosing us. Like, it's good for our ego, it's good for whatever. I mean, it's biology, really. We just
that we're desired so much.
That we're desirable. It's good for our egos, the whole thing. We want to feel desired. We want to be ravished. We want to know that you adore us and that you can't stop thinking about us. And that you've chose us.
But it also is tough as a guy.
The whole world
I'm a nice guy, and I fell into the nice guy trap for years and years, right? Because I think guys, I'm 36, and guys my generation, I think, Marni, you and I probably talked about this once in something else we did. I know a guy who's a really, really nice guy who's my age, and I was talking to a girl that used to date him, and she was saying, he sat there once, and we were making out, and he said, is it okay if I touch your breast? And I just lost my lady boner in 2 seconds.
Right.
Because he's but it's tough because as a guy, if you're a nice guy, you're taught to be respectful of women, right? And there's a weird line that's hard to find between being respectful and being a wimp. Right. Where is that? And so many guys have the hardest time figuring out. It's like, well, if you don't want to act like some misogynistic asshole, but you also still want to have masculinity and have power and, make her feel like you're a guy who can take her.
Well, there's this show called Mixology that's on, and it's not actually a very good show. Horrible that I'm bashing it right now. But there was a really good scene that I actually have up on my website, on my blog right now, where a guy picks up a girl at a bar, and he says to her, but I'm a nice guy. And she goes, are you a nice guy? Or are you a guy who's afraid of what people are going to think about you?
Right.
They're two very different things. And she said every girl wants a nice guy. They don't want a guy who's afraid to make a move, who's afraid to make a mistake, who's afraid to piss people off. Don't be afraid to piss people off. You know what will piss people off. Don't do any of those things, but don't be afraid to take action. So I just want to clarify that we actually do want nice guys.
Yeah. The thing that women want more than confidence is decisiveness. They want a guy that can make a decision and go for it. I was talking to a good friend of mine recently. Her and her boyfriend just got together, and the thing that made her fall for him is like she went to him and was like, I'm really not sure. I'm still kind of have a thing for my ex-boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you can think whatever you want, but I know that I'm incredibly attracted to you and that we're going to be together forever. And she just melted, right? Because he had made a decision and
said it confidently and wasn't emotional about it.
And it wasn't, but again, it wasn't a wimp about it. It wasn't like begging.
It was clear and definitive.
For the X thing, by the way, we have a product called Texture X Back. It does extraordinarily well. We sell thousands and thousands of copies for it, and we get a lot of people when they lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they are at their most emotionally vulnerable, and they're kind of crazy. And 99% of them, you give a cell phone to them, and it's like giving a hand grenade to a baby. It's a bad idea. Because what they end up doing is they end up texting their ex and saying things like, why don't you love me anymore? I can change. What can I do differently? How can I change who I am to be the person that you want me to be? And it ruins any chance they ever have of getting that person back. Because the way to get them back is not to beg and to plead and to offer to change all the other things. It's to become the person you were before your relationship fell apart in the first place.
Right, absolutely.
Become that person they were attracted to, whether it was 6 months ago or 6
is what we're getting at.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah. Because even, because you're talking about text, the romance back, text your ex back. So for people on all different levels of relationships.
People love texting. So
they definitely like, I don't know if they love texting, but they definitely use texting as a resource. Yeah. But in general, most people, as they get comfortable in any scenario, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, whatever, they forget to put in effort. So even like what Emily was talking about before, what Michael's been talking about rejuvenating your sex lives, rejuvenating your dating life, rejuvenating your connection that you had once before. I think texting is a really great medium for doing that. And everything that Michael's saying about building up and creating tension, teasing a little bit throughout the entire day is something that can remind your significant other that you still want to put the effort in, plus you have an amazing imagination and can be super fun over text and build up that anticipation to see that person at the end of the day, rather than walking in the door and being like, how was your day? And then it's like, fine. But, yeah, exactly. Let's have sex.
The thing about Text the Romance Back is a lot of people don't have a great imagination. They're not writers, they're not whatever else, which is why that particular program is basically just done for you. Right?
Yeah, it gives you templates and things that you can learn from.
Here's exactly what to do. You don't have to think about it. Eventually, you'll get good enough at it that you can do it yourself, but at first, you can just kind of use the stuff and kind of see what comes from there, and it gets great results. We get a lot.
I love how everything is coming full circle, because that's what we were talking about at the beginning half of the show. It's about, surrounding yourself with information and knowledge, and then you learn at a basic level, and you use a system that's in place for somebody else, and then you take that system and make it into your own, and then you can really own a skill set. But if anybody wants to check out Michael's materials, I know he's mentioned 30 different products, go to winggirlmethod.com/Michael F. winggirlmethod.com/Michael F. And that will take you to all of his materials and all of his products and all of his information. And I definitely or highly suggest that you pick up a copy of something of his, because he makes great programs, especially Get the Girl Code, because it features somebody on this podcast. Yes. But Michael, thank you so much for being on the show. It was wonderful to have you.
Hear you guys anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Next time you'll be in studio with us. You can actually
see us. I will come down and we'll do
Please do.
Wonderful.
Come on my show too.
I will, totally.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Love that.
All right, well, thank you.
So good to talk to you. Great information.
Yes, great information. I think
I think I should just send the guys who are sending me these lame messages on Twitter and just be like, or on Tinder, and just send them your website.
Oh, you should.
Michael.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you should
just give them like the advice.
You are so hot.
It's like guerrilla
exactly.
marketing.
Love your pictures, and I'll just send them your link, Michael.
When I first started doing this business 10 years ago, I was going to print up cards, and when guys came up to me, I was going to say, like, okay, here, take this card, go to my website, read a little bit, and then you can re-engage me.
I did that once when I was a long time ago. I talked about it on the podcast. Some kid hit on me in Starbucks, and I was like, well, I actually am a host of a podcast called Ask Women, and you were like really bad, so why don't you listen?
I've done that too, guys.
I like it.
Thank you so much for approaching me. I'll say to guys, I'm like, thank you. That was, I really appreciate it. I'm not interested, but I talk about this for a living. You should keep doing it, keep trying it, but here's what you did wrong, in a moment.
I know. I always felt so bad doing that stuff. But thank you,
I'm going to leave you guys.
Yes.
I'm going to leave you guys with one quick thing.
Yes, please.
One of the other great emails we got from a customer recently was a guy, and you guys can riff on this after I leave, I think, but there was a guy who wrote in and said, Michael, I don't understand. I caught a girl looking at my crotch the other day. Why would she do that?
Your fly
She's
was
a
down.
horrible person. That's why she would do it.
I guess
dirty, filthy-minded bitch.
And she smiled at me, too.
The nerve of her.
Do girls really look at guys like that? I can't.
Was he 12? I mean, I don't.
His fly was down.
I mean, he was in his 20s somewhere, and I'm like, well, you must have something there she wanted to see. I don't know what it might be, buddy. Weird.
Absolutely. Do you write back to these emails? You should just say you are a fool.
Back to some of them. Yeah, we use them for our podcast. We use them for our
entertainment.
Yeah, exactly, or for other people's podcasts.
Right.
Well, Michael, again, thank you so much for being on our show, and Emily, thank you so much for being on our show. You're definitely going to have to come back again.
For
sure. We learned so much from you, from
Dr.
Emily.
Dr. Emily.
That's true.
Doctor of Sex.
Doctor of Sex. Check out my podcast, sexwithemily.com. It's all there.
Perfect.
And Twitter and Facebook, Sex with Emily.
Perfect. I love that. And check out a new podcast from the Ask Women podcast every Thursday at Podcast One. That's podcastone.com. Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah,
so you don't have to manually go on and go to Podcast One. You can just have it automatically go into your feeds that you listen to into the car, in the subway, wherever you are, you can listen to it automatically. And we didn't do Analyze This again, but next week we will. But write your questions into ask@askwomenpodcast.com. And we will see you next week, guys. Thanks for listening.